Personal finance expert, MeVest founder Lesley-Anne Scorgi joins us on Canada Now. And Lesley-Anne, an article on MeVest.ca discusses what questions you need to ask your insurance advisor before making changes or signing up for a new life insurance policy.
So let's firstly talk about how insurance feels like a black box for so many people. It doesn't make a lot of sense. They haven't received formal training on the subject. And when we think of insurance, we typically just think about home and auto insurance. But what we're talking about today is actually much more important. It's protecting the larger things in your life, such as your life. Imagine your children or your spouse were without any kind of financial support if you were to pass away. Like, I hate to say this, and it's such a crass subject, it's hard to talk about, but we have to talk about death. We also, in the financial planning process, have to talk about two other things, which is called disability and critical illness. So just imagine, again, not to be crass here, but like imagine you or your spouse were to become disabled and still live a long, long life, but you were unable to work. That could be really, really hard on your finances. And the same thing for critical illness. So when we look at insurance, we look way beyond home and auto insurance. And now we're talking about even larger, more valuable things, your life, your health, and your future income.
You need to know what's covered. You need to know what your coverage is like. And it's one of those things, life insurance, you might get it at one point and then forget all about it. So you might not even remember what you have. If you have any, you might be doubling up in some places and it ends up not being worth it. But, when you talk about becoming ill, critically ill, becoming disabled, you just think, well, that's not something that's going to happen to me. So it's something that kind of, the mere suggestion of it goes in one ear and out the other.
Totally. We see this time and again where because the subject is uncomfortable, we see especially younger families who are actually most at risk. They tend not to get the right kinds of insurance because they just don't like to talk about it or they don't know how to go about doing the work. So I think, a good place to start when it comes to just basic life insurance. So if you have a dependent or you're a household where there's two people and you own a home or there's children involved, you absolutely have to have a form of life insurance. And so the first question you would want to ask your registered insurance advisor, this is like a professional who has licenses, not your friend. This is like a pro, is what type of insurance do I currently have or do I possibly need? So in the life insurance category, there's two styles of policies. There's term life insurance, and then there's permanent life insurance. And I can tell you 95% of the time, you're going to end up with at least term insurance and possibly a slice of permanent life insurance. So term insurance is lower cost and it's also for like a shorter period of time. And you sometimes can convert it into like a permanent life insurance policy. But here's the scoop. Permanent life insurance is much more expensive, but it's guaranteed. So unlike term insurance, where it's kind of like if you don't pay your premiums, you could actually lose that insurance money, which is very scary, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like you lose it if you don't pay for it. So with permanent, however, it's like you pay for it, you fund that policy, and you're going to have it for forever. It's also used as a tool for savings. But here's the catch is permanent life insurance costs a lot more than just a straight up term policy, which is why you find so many, especially younger families, going with term, at least to get started.
Well, can you, should you switch up insurance based on health changes?
Yeah. So what you will want to do is start to form a good relationship with your insurance provider, like that person I just mentioned, who's registered and licensed to help you. So as your life unfolds, your needs are going to change. In fact, you should be reviewing your insurance at least once a year. So there are options to convert your policy from like a term policy into a whole life or permanent policy. And what you'll want to find out from your insurance pro is like, do I need to do another medical exam? What if I've had a health challenge that crept up in the past couple of years? What does it do to the overall needs for your insurance? And then what does it do to the cost of changing your insurance and possibly converting it into the more expensive kind? So remember that insurance, it costs money. And you want to manage the way you are covered in the most optimal way possible, which means you got to review what are my needs? Where is my health at? Do I need to make a change?
Well, do all carriers offer conversion options? And if your carrier doesn't, should you bail on them?
So it's a really good question. Policies are so unique to whoever provides them. And there's major insurers in Canada. Most of them will have an option for conversion. So you would want to talk to your professional in advance to say, like, should I buy this extra, cost a little bit extra to have the flexibility to be able to convert? But yeah, like, policies aren't made equal. Each one is unique, and you're going to have that conversation. So at some points in time, the insurance professional may say, like, it's probably not worth it for you to convert. Or maybe they'll come back to you and say, like, yeah, it's definitely worth it for you to convert. So you're going to want to have a look at your budget, your needs, whether or not the policy you originally bought is actually convertible or not. And should you turf the advisor? That's really up to you. So your question around, like, who are you dealing with? Like, this comes down to basic judgment, I think. Like, if you don't like the insurance professional that you are working with, you should absolutely go and meet some new people. I can say this with like a real honest view. Like, my husband is a licensed insurance professional. He's a financial planner.
Yeah.
And so we talk about insurance. We talk about death and illness and critical illness, disability all the time. It's a fun household over here.
Pillow talk in your house is different than everybody else.
These are great conversations. But I got to tell you, like, some of his best tips to my clients even, or just generally to friends, is like, the relationship that you form with your insurance advisor, it has to be one of trust. So if you don't feel like you're getting the straight up goods on like what you need, or if you feel like you're being taken for a ride, you need to leave. There are plenty of insurance pros out there who like really care that you do well at getting the right coverage. And when they look at your family, they're thinking of their own family, and they're thinking, gosh, what would I do? What would be best for you? And you'll know that. That's instinct.
Yeah, I've had that with real estate agents. I remember being with a real estate agent once, and I felt like she was pressuring me to buy a place I didn't want, and I didn't feel good about it. And so before letting her go, I met with another real estate agent that was recommended to me, and she's been my real estate agent for, oh my God, like 15 years. Every time I've moved since then, she's been my real estate agent. And I remember, I know this is going off the rails a little bit, but I remember, to talk about how much a professional would care for you, I remember one time looking at a place, and she walked in before I did, and she went, "Oh no, I'm not letting you move here." And she shut the door and locked and said, "We're going." I said, "Well, can I look?" She goes, "Well, you can look, but I'm not letting you buy it." And she opened the door again, and I walked in, and I went, "Oh yeah, you're right. This was a waste of time." She goes, "I'm not letting you move in here. That's not happening." So there are people, professionals that care about you that much. That can happen.
I agree. And I think like that example of your realtor caring to just not show you something that wasn't going to work, that's what you're looking for when you're dealing with an insurance pro. It's funny because just last week I received 3 separate emails about how to interview an insurance advisor.
Ah,
And I thought, well, good for you, first off, for asking like these questions. The emails were, crafted in a different way, but the theme was all the same. And, what I would suggest is you should actually speak to at least 3 insurance professionals before you make a decision. And that might sound annoying to you because, like, who's got time for that? But there are people who are brokers who can actually go out and look across the entire market on your behalf, and they can bring back various policies from different providers for you. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is just go to some of the big insurers in Canada. You find a pro through a referral. Make sure it's somebody that you trust. And you're then starting to have some conversations with them. Are they pushy? Do they understand your needs? And what they give back to you proposal-wise, is it giving you some flexibility? Because we all know it. Like, look at what happened in 2020. You're going to need some flexibility in what you have for your insurance. I also need to just say here, the coronavirus is treated different by every insurance company. So when you're doing these conversations, like, add that to the list of interview questions. How do you guys treat the coronavirus? And like, what do I need to be aware of?
absolutely. And great advice, as always, on that. I wanted to ask you as well, more from a financial standpoint, with all of the options that might be offered to you, are you able to select a number of options and, for lack of a better term, buy them in bulk? Like, are you able to save some money by pointing out, hey, I want that one and that one and that one. Can you get me a deal on that?
Yeah, so those are often called like riders. So certain policies can include or exclude certain pieces of coverage, which often changes the value of the price of the policy. So yeah, you should be looking at, like, do you want to pick and choose what is right for you? Absolutely. There are going to be pieces of this that, like, will not be relevant for you. So I want to caution everyone who's listening right now, cheaper is not always better when it comes to insurance. And actually that applies to any kind of insurance coverage, whether it's like home or auto. And I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you, but like, I actually lost a place in a fire once.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've had some really complex insurance dealings in the past.
Wow.
And I would say that all the time, whenever I've had an insurance claim, there hasn't been many, but the ones I've had have been rather large.
Yeah.
It's always paid off to have had a detailed review of what I have, and I didn't skimp on my policies. I've never skimped on my policies. Now, what your method to save, however, is you look for the best policy at the best price. So the combination of your needs and maybe the riders that you add or subtract from the policy, compare those. So with various providers, but as always, trying to get the greatest value for your money is really the name of the game. And don't skimp out, my friends. Don't do it. Not when it comes to insurance.
Again, great advice. And by the way, you got to write a book at some point. I'm not talking about like financial advice. I'm talking about your life story, because it seems like almost with every conversation I learn a detail. I go, what? So, I mean, being on Oprah, I mean, come on. That's a whole chapter right there.
I know. I think that the life journey has actually made me better at doing what I do, which is all in the financial education space. Literally, I swear, Jeff, I've seen almost all of it that could possibly happen.
Well, check out MeVest.ca while we wait for the Lesley-Anne Scorgie story. Personal finance expert, MeVest founder, Baby Hank's mom, Lesley-Anne Scorgie. Lesley-Anne, always a pleasure, my friend. We'll do it again in a week.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right. Thank you. We'll set you up for the Thursday